Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for coming along to this session on the future of hospitality over the next 25 years. We thought it was a sensible question to ask because this is the 25th anniversary Arabian Travel Market Show, and we wanted to try to look forward. Those of you who've seen the piece in the programme will know that I've quoted Peter Drucker's comment that the best way to predict the future is to create it. We have three panelists today. I'll invite them up onto the stage in a minute. The Minister from Bahrain has unfortunately gone home. He's not well, and we wish him a speedy recovery, but he's had to leave Dubai and return to Bahrain. But we do have three speakers. Before I invite them onto the stage, though, Simon Press from World Travel Market and I have an announcement to make together, which is for the launch of this year's World Responsible Tourism Awards. If we could have that slide, please. Simon, please. The awards are opening today for nominations. These are the 5 categories on the screen. They will be available for nominations until early August, and then the judging process will take us through. The awards are now organised by WTM London and include the Africa Responsible Tourism Awards and the India Responsible Tourism Awards. So Simon just wanted to say a few words about the importance to WTM as a group of the awards. Thank you, Simon.
Cheers, thank you very much, Harold, and welcome you all to Arabian Travel Market. I'm hoping that you're having a successful day so far. Just like to point out the fact is that we've been really driving the area of responsible and sustainable tourism now across the WTM brand for how many years is it, Harold? 15, 20? 15 years. And what we're seeing is that this so important, this topic is becoming more mainstream, and certainly we are bringing that onto the main stage. It's a fantastic opportunity for us to start running the Responsible Tourism Awards. We hope to drive that in the right direction for the good of the whole responsible and sustainable tourism programme across the travel and tourism and hospitality sectors. And it's so important. It's not just something that I passionately and personally believe in, but I think it's important that we all take our part in ensuring that everything can be delivered and all those experiences and fantastic opportunities can be made available to the next generation as well. But also to ensure that travel, tourism and hospitality has so much to offer down to the grassroots level, and to make sure that that is delivered in the proper and the right way as well. So very important that we are now running the World Responsible Tourism Awards, and delighted to have this fantastic panel for you here today to talk about the topic in question. So thank you very much. Good to see you all here and engaged in such an important topic for the WTM brand. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much indeed, Simon. The point about responsible tourism is that it's about making tourism better. And the easiest definition is that it's about using tourism to make better places for people to live in and better places for people to visit. And the titles, the categories of the awards, I think, reflect that. If I could now invite our panellists to come up onto the platform to join me here. We've got Maitha bin Saif Al Maruki, who's the Under Secretary of the Sultanate of Oman's Ministry of Tourism. Could you join us on the panel, please? And then we've got Ingra Hubricks, the Global Vice President for Radisson. Please take a seat. Please come and join us. And Peter Stubbs, who glories in the title of Director of Compliance, Group and Corporate for the Jumeirah Group. Peter, come and join us on the platform. We're going to have a short presentation from each of the speakers, and then I'm hoping very much that this will turn into a conversation, and therefore please have your questions ready. Charlotte is here with the microphone, just waiting for you to ask those difficult questions. I wanted to say, as a way of starting though, that Arabian Travel Market has been here for 25 years. The UN system has been concerned about sustainability since somewhere around 1970, 1972. And it was in 1972 that the Club of Rome produced the report on the limits to growth, which is, I still remember being shocked by that report when it came out and believing passionately that it wouldn't happen. Research by the University of Melbourne into those forecasts has shown that most of the forecasts were in fact correct, and that business as usual over the last 45 years has meant that the forecasts have been fulfilled. So I think one of the fundamental questions that we need to think about in terms of taking responsibility for making tourism more sustainable is how business is going to change. And I think there are probably two dimensions to that which I'd like to tease out today in this panel. The first is around the environmental constraints, and that agenda is now well established. It's about water, waste and carbon emissions and energy use. There's a very important agenda there for the travel and tourism industry. But the other part of the agenda is around experiential travel, which is maybe where the bigger positive opportunities for tourism are. You can save money on the wastewater and energy agenda. On the experiential agenda, there's an opportunity to extend length of stay and to increase the value of tourism to the destination. And I'd really like us, if we can, to look at both those areas today. But if we come first to Oman, if we may, I particularly like your strapline for Oman.
Thank you.
Yeah, that beauty has a destination.
Beauty
has an address.
Yes.
Oman. And it does seem to me, I've had the privilege to spend some time in Oman, and I would concur with that. You talk about the importance of tourism as an economic diversification for Oman, but you also talk about preserving the cultural integrity, and you talk about protecting the environment. How's it going?
First of all, thank you for inviting us to be part of this panelist, and this is a great platform to be here, and congratulations for, we know today Arabian Travel Market is at 25th years. So it's very good to vision what happened the last 25 years and where we are today and where we're going to be in 25 years. As a Sultanate of Oman, being part of the GCC and the Middle East as a region, we started diversification of our economy many years, but looking into different segments away from oil and gas, tourism became like a main pillar for most of the governments. However, when you build a new industry and you're developing an industry where it has a lot to do, not only because it's touch basing of the environment, looking into the culture and heritage, the government of Oman created a roadmap of 2040. So we finalized our strategy for 2040, where it gives us a very clear roadmap how to really diversify from the economy in putting tourism as one of the main pillars. However, maintaining the culture, the heritage, and mainly maintaining the people who will be working and the main pillars to be working in this industry. So we looked into these areas, and accordingly we put a very clear strategy. We've learned the lessons, and I think in this industry where the digital world and moving a digital world very fast, and we need even ourselves to look into how these things are going fast, moving into new source markets. Today we are all looking into new source markets, not traditionally, but sometimes we're looking into the leisure part, sometimes we're looking into the nature, sometimes we're looking into the culture. We had really to look into Oman as a people themselves. Many people maybe even sitting on this crowd, they're thinking, okay, where's Oman, what they can offer? Actually, a destination like Oman where we're very close geographically to Dubai or to UAE, we just have crossed borders with UAE. We maintained actually the culture and the heritage in the nature. So we started to work on cluster planning. And mainly that was because to be sustainable, we need to look into the environment. So giving an example, one of the areas we looked into as a government and where we talked with our stakeholders, plus the investors, is how can we create these clusters and building these clusters, working with the communities, being sustainably and not really, we're measuring the environment. Therefore, like Jabal Akhdar today, everybody is in the road. Most of the travelers, tour operators, globally, we have really like a few products in our mountains where the weather throughout the year is a very beautiful weather to compare to the region. Many people come there, they will think like, wow, they've done a massive development. But yes, we've done what is needed to get the tourists there, but to maintain it as well, authenticity, but to maintain it as well for the environment and being sustainable. So this is actually the leadership of His Majesty, because he's a very keen person environmentally as well as a person. So most of our strategies, not only in tourism, but even if you're looking into our infrastructure, we don't go for the mass. We're really evaluating that accordingly and with our people, because we can't just bring a segment or a sector or a new economical diversification to the pillar just suddenly. So we need to build as well the human capacity what we have. So it's one thing we always learn in this industry. We learn so many things to do to compare ourselves to the region, but as well we learn so much what not to do. And I think this is very clear for us as well. There are a lot of things not to do, and we try to avoid that.
Well, clearly it's been to your advantage that you weren't amongst the first movers in developing tourism in the region,
Yes.
and that's often a big advantage. We'll come back to that when we talk about
Sure.
Dubai. But are you confident that you can avoid some of the problems of over-tourism, which we're now seeing happening in a lot of destinations around the world, some of them in quite remote places?
In Oman, we have 11 regions, and each region has its own identity, and it has its own product, what it can offer. We are very close to UAE. We are complementing UAE as well. So we have a lot of travelers who are coming through UAE to Oman, to visit Oman. We just recently, very proud to say, we opened our new international airport with a capacity of almost 20 million travelers using that. We open other regional airports as well, where they can cater the domestic travelers as well. It's always a challenging to measure, you're right. However, looking into the source markets, we're looking to our source market who are coming, the segments of tourism. Oman by nature is a 5-star destination. It had many people around the globe. It looked into a very luxury, untapped market. Yes, because we have a coastline of over 3,000 kilometers of a coastline. And it has one of the most beautiful coastlines in the world. So building all these products on these coastlines, yes, they were 5-star and 5 kind of a product where it can cater the luxury. However, with the Oman youth, 54% of Omanis as a population are youth. We need to capture as well the youth. We need to capture the domestic travelers. So we had to look into that. It's something we measure, and again, I'm going to emphasize, most of us as governments, when we put these strategies, there is so much to learn what is happening to avoid it. And I think we have the great opportunity to avoid not doing a mistake. And you measure it. You need to bring a tool to measure. You need to really work with your own communities, and most to work with investors. I think in today's topic when we discuss is the investors. Most of the investors, when they come to invest, everybody will look into the RR, what I'm going to get this return of investment, how quick can I get that? So here where the government, they put a basket of incentives to avoid most of the investors who are coming and inflating that quick investment, return of investment. So we were working with them, and we're looking what we can do with them. So I think with the government, that vision, what we have, we are working on a very steadily in a stable capacity. Yeah.
Okay, so I understand that you're being selective about the kinds of investments that
Yes,
you're welcoming into
we
Oman.
do. Yeah.
How much pressure are you under as a ministry, though, just to build tourist arrival figures? Or is the concern with the economic value that's created for Oman?
Yeah, being as one of the pillars as an industry, Oman established the Ministry of Tourism headed by a minister and a deputy minister, having a seat in the cabinet. in 2004. That shows what the government really looking to the sector. Building human capacity as well is very important. We are really working on that. We're in the platform with the culture and moving most of our youth or our employments are actually moving now to the tourism industry. It's a lot of pressure because most of the part of the world, they're looking into how can we really as well accommodate the employment. And as a sector, you need to really invest in the infrastructure. So that's what we did step one as a country, looking into that area.
Can I just pursue that for a minute with you?
Sure.
Because one of the problems that the industry has in many destinations around the world is a sense that these are not worthwhile jobs, and they're not the kinds of jobs which mothers would like, or mothers or fathers would like their daughters or sons to become involved in. Is that a challenge in Oman, or are you beginning to overcome that?
We are overcoming that gradually. It's traditionally this part of the world as well. Many people looked into oil and gas. Myself, my background was a long time ago in oil and gas. And then when the aviation industry boomed, I moved to industry of aviation, and then now in tourism. So I think this is a pace where it's going. The word of mouth, many of the young youth, when they come to these summits and looking into the tourism industry, not only as a leisure, but looking into the MICE industry segmentation of it, what we are attracting, different segments, it created. And tourism is not only hospitality. They become part of that growth. So what we did in Oman, most of our project actually, where we developed the regions, we were very, very lucky. Oman has different regions, and having these regions developing projects with the investors, with the locals, to be sustainable. So to creating an overall an employment within the regions. Gradually it's taking much positive. We've seen a growth of employment in Oman. In the tourism industry, a growth between 2 to 3% yearly, which is a very healthy to start with.
Thanks very much indeed. Can we move on now to hear about one of the companies which, for all I know, is planning to invest more in Oman? I don't know, actually. I should have asked you, Inga. I didn't. I'm going to ask Peter the same question, which is, we're trying to look forward 25 years. Do you want to start your presentation maybe by just reflecting on 20 years ago and the way things have changed? Just very briefly on that, and then to look to the future. But please come and share your presentation with us.
Fantastic, thank you. With pleasure. So I had a few slides prepared. I don't know if the people in the back can put them up. Yes, here they are. So, Your Excellency and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm absolutely delighted to be part of this panel. And actually, I wanted to start by saying that I'm from Belgium. I'm from the country of the famous dance festival Tomorrowland. Don't know if you know it, but so when I was asked to talk about the next 25 years in hospitality, I thought this is exciting. I want to talk about the tomorrow and beyond of the hospitality industry. I don't know how to click, so next slide, please. So at Radisson, is there a clicker? Thank you. Lovely. At Radisson Hotel Group, with our 1,400 hotels around the world, with 8 distinctive brands, we focus on making every moment matter and on building a sustainable future. And we do that by focusing on think people, think community, and think planet. So think people is caring for our guests and our employees, and for the employees in the supply chain. Think community is about creating shared value in our communities, but also about employment. It's a very important point Her Excellency made. We employ over 100,000 hospitality people around the world, and we have taken a commitment to train 1,400 underprivileged young people each year on employability skills. And then finally, in the area of Think Planet, we focus on minimizing our environmental footprint in the area of carbon, energy, water. We always focus on zero waste and zero plastics. and we focus on bringing water stewardship in water-stressed destinations. And when we do this, of course, we work within the international frameworks. Next slide, please. We work in the international frameworks that exist, like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are the world's development goals for 2030, and the International Tourism Partnership Hospitality Industry Targets, also for 2030, working collectively in the industry on water, carbon, human rights, and youth employment. But that takes us only to 2030, and we need to look beyond for the question of this panel, but also for the sustainability of our industry. I'm going to try it again, but next slide, please. I'm going to take you first. To look into the future, we need to look at the past. So I'm going to take you on a little trip down memory lane. Who remembers this? In 1991, this is a picture of Dubai in 1991, which is a little over 25 years ago, in the year when the first cruise ship arrived here and brought 700 cruise ship passengers here. And I'm old enough to remember that mobile phones and computers used to look like this. So, but 25 years later, just 25 years, we are, and next slide, please. This is what it looks like today. So Dubai welcomes over 500,000 of cruise ship passengers each year, has committed to welcome 20 million visitors by 2020. And there's the internet. All our lives evolve around the information that we can get on our phones on the internet. And I have news for you. The internet was born 25 years ago. So imagine how this has changed our lives, but also tourism and travel, in the way it's become more open, more accessible, more transparent globally. So if this is how much change we've had in the past 25 years, next slide, please. Let's have a look at what the next 25 years will bring, in my view. I have 3 words for you: disconnected, connected, and community. Next slide, please. Disconnected is all about the environmental footprint of hotels. Today, next slide. Today, everybody works on making incremental improvements in reducing the footprint of hotels. For instance, at Radisson Hotel Group, we have reduced our energy footprint by 25% in the past 5 years. A lot of hotels often offer carbon-free stays, carbon-free meetings, like we do in our Radisson Blu brand around the world, where all meetings are carbon-free. And a lot of our hotels focus on offering local food, sustainable food. Can you go back, please? But in the future, we need to up that game, and we need to be much more demanding. So hotels will be disconnected or off-grid, which means they produce their energy themselves. They will not be connected to the national grid or the local grid. They will be water neutral. They will source their water locally from a borehole or other sources, and they will reuse their water completely. I also think that we need to move into the direction of producing fresh produce locally. I mean locally at the hotel or in the city or the place where the hotel is based. That can be done by what is called a plant lab. It's actually essentially growing produce in a closed building and adding just the frequencies of light that are needed, no pesticides, and with 10% of the water compared to traditional agriculture. Next slide, please. The next word I have for you is connected. Connected is all around technology. Click, please. So today we offer already 3D views to explain to our owners how beautiful a Radisson Blu or a Radisson Red looks like. We serve our guests with very intelligent CRM, customer relationship management systems. And we work with a lot of intermediaries like travel management companies, OTAs, and bookers. Next, thank you. In the future, however, technology is totally going to change those interactions. To start with, virtual reality will totally change the way we select and experience travel. A good example is actually already existing. In the UK, there's TrueView, which is a digital marketplace for MICE bookings in secondary locations. And this platform uses 3D and virtual reality to offer the MICE bookers a full on-site visit, but from their office chair. So using 3D, using virtual reality, it exists today. And it has an environmental benefit because there's no carbon for the on-site visits. Nobody has to fly anywhere. And it offers an economic benefit because it promotes the secondary locations. I also think that the guest experience will become uniquely personalized. We will use artificial intelligence in hotels to answer the guests' questions, even maybe before they arise. You have to think of chatbots answering guest questions, so our staff and our team can focus on more valuable interaction with guests and handling more complex questions. Now, I've put the buzzword up there, blockchain. I'm by no means an expert in blockchain, but I do think that blockchain will revolutionize the way we work with supply chains, because blockchain will give us the opportunity to have information from tier N, so really down the line in your supply chain, and pass it on securely to the hotel, whether that's information on the environment or information on human rights. Next slide, please. Click again. And last but not least, the community. Professor Goodwin has brought it up. Experiential travel is the buzzword of today. A lot of hotel companies like our own, we have individual actions that create shared value in the community. We work, for instance, with SOS Children's Villages around the world. We work with Just a Drop, who is also the charity partner of ATM. And we work on creating shared value around employability. But tomorrow, I think destinations, hotels in destinations should work together more closely. There's good examples. For example, the Thai Convention Bureau today, they gathered all big hotels that are working on MICE and big convention locations in Thailand to go and procure rice directly from the Thai farmers in the countryside. So they cut out all the middlemen, and they did this providing a fair wage to those rice farmers, and also on condition that the rice would be organically grown. So this connection in the destination allowed the destination to be more efficient and more people-friendly, more environmentally friendly, all in one go. When we're talking about experiential travel, I think we need to start talking about authentic, responsible experiences. Because just like Her Excellency mentioned, preserving culture and tradition can be done by offering responsible, authentic experiences. And this in a world and a time where everything gets standardized and globalized. In this way, we can be really inclusive in tourism and travel. I think about an experience I had in Nairobi when I last visited, and I took a slum tour in Kibera. Now, Kibera is not a place where I would normally go on my own, but the gentleman offering the tour was living in Kibera, and he gave me access to and visibility of all the social initiatives and all these great startups that happen in Kibera. So this was an excellent example of authentic, responsible, experiential travel. Next slide, please. So for the next 25 years, I think you understand the message. I'm excited about the 25 years, but I think we really need to continue to build on responsible tourism. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Can I just pursue the Kibera example with you? Because what is striking to me, we had a session at WTM London on, we called it slum tourism. And what is striking about those visits, the people who've done them, is that they come back amazed by the entrepreneurial skills of the people in those communities and the realization that their entrepreneurial skills are in some ways very different from the conventional skills of someone who has an MBA. Yeah? And in a way, there's almost more entrepreneurialism at the bottom of the pyramid, to use that language. Was that your experience in Kibera? I've not been there, so I don't know, but is that what you came away with?
It's absolutely been an amazing experience. I mean, there were people replacing ivory by making jewelry out of bones, so offal. These kind of entrepreneurships, there were social initiatives for women and families struck by AIDS. So in terms of your question, I think absolutely. And what it allowed me to do is also bring these entrepreneurs in contact with our hotels in Nairobi in this case. So I think there's a lot of opportunity of bringing those small entrepreneurs also in contact with hotels around the world who would otherwise maybe not find these entrepreneurs or these social initiatives. So in terms of the real authentic experience and access to entrepreneurial spirit, I think absolutely, yes.
I'm not sure how many of the people in the audience now were in the previous session in here. There's a lot of talk of hyper-personalisation and the way that would be delivered through, essentially through the internet and those kinds of services. But I was stood at the back thinking, I wonder really if that's what people are after, or whether they're not after this real personal engagement that comes from that kind of tour. I don't know, and we will know in 10 or 15 years, but I think there's two quite different views about the way the future will develop in terms of this increasing desire for a personalised experience. Can it just be delivered by a hotel that doesn't turn my heating down 15 degrees when I've clearly put it at 22? I mean, that would be a big step forward if we could even do that. But whether they can deliver that kind of personal experience, I wait to see.
If I
do you
may,
want to answer that?
Yeah,
I'm sure Radisson wouldn't do that to me.
Sorry?
I don't think Radisson would do that to me, would they?
Well, I think we need to be sustainable and continue to be sustainable and involve our guests in that. But I think hotels become ecosystems. So they become ecosystems of social entrepreneurship and of access to all these wonderful experiences that are truly celebrating local cultural heritage. And we cannot do it alone. We need to be that ecosystem in the destination.
Peter, Jumeirah Group. In some ways, you could claim, we've heard about the cruise line, but we also know that the Jumeirah hotels have almost defined Dubai in a way. Looking back at it now, over those 25 years or so since the first, how do you see the history?
Well, thank you, Harold, and Your Excellency, and it's delighted to be here today to represent Jumeirah on the discussion around sustainability. I've got the honour of having some responsibility to look after sustainability within Jumeirah, and I think probably 25 years ago the Burj Al Arab was being designed on paper to be delivered. I think we're about to celebrate our 18th or 19th birthday, and I think in the time we'll all appreciate that the Burj Al Arab has done amazing things for Dubai in terms of putting us on the map as a tourist destination, and arguably ATM wouldn't exist in the same way today if it wasn't for the Burj Al Arab. But in terms of sustainability, I think there was a recognition within the first few years of Jumeirah and the Burj Al Arab that we had to deliver 5-star plus luxury with the social and moral responsibilities. So I'm part of the ExCom team that year on year tries to make Jumeirah, the Burj Al Arab, a more sustainable place to stay. And I think if I can give an example of how we managed that last year, which was the full conversion of the Burj Al Arab, Madinat Jumeirah and Jumeirah Beach Hotel from localized air conditioning to district cooling. And that's a great example of many engineering enhancements that we've done to the Burj Al Arab to move it through its life cycle in terms of making it more responsible. And if I was to fast forward to today and Jumeirah, the last hotel that we opened, 4-star hotel, Zabeel House by Jumeirah, which is on the south bank of the creek in Bur Dubai, situated right next to Bastakia. There's a great example of how our product and our hotel and our concepts have moved much closer to what we're talking about today. So in terms of the brand of Zabeel House, one of our pillars is the neighborhood. And of course, we're right at the heart of the old part of Dubai. It has a huge experiential part to the hotel. But also because of the neighborhood brand, we've been able to incorporate all sorts of concepts around sustainable sourcing, local food procurement, the use of the fish market, which is across the creek. And I think it's a great example of how Jumeirah and how our hotel products have moved over the last 25 years to fulfill the requirement of the current market.
I walked through the Arabian Middle East section this morning, through the whole show, looking to see what I could see of traditional culture from this part of the world. Some of the museums are here, and it was good to see that, the heritage in the museums. There's a little bit of falconry, almost nothing about camels, and even very little about dates, which I know because I worked in Saudi for a while. It's a really important part of the local culture. To be in a Saudi office when people have just had the date harvest come in, and you see those heated sometimes debates going on about which of the dates in that year's harvest, of which family's got the best dates, is an important part of the culture, I think. Is it ever going to be possible to make that available for a tourist, do you think? Your Excellency, do you think that's possible?
Actually, like in Oman, when we did we put a roadmap for the strategy, it was one of the mandate pillars when we started to looking into the investments. Precisely the last 5 years, when we've seen a massive growth in this industry in Oman as a sector and contributing now over 3% of our GDP. One of the areas we looked at is who are our business partners, looking from the hotel groups, looking from the investment perspective, how can we really maintain not only the culture but what we have? So one of the areas we mandated the last 5 years is offering of the dates in the hotels. In their cuisine menu, it has to be Omani cuisine, because we do have some products from Oman, like the rose water, for example. We have the olives as well for some areas. We have the thyme. So these to be used culturally in hotels, especially the 5- and 4-star hotels. In some areas as well, where we put it as a cluster. Today in Oman, as a Sharqiya region, where the desert dune are there, you are not allowed to build anything except environmental friendly and eco-friendly. You're not allowed. There is no cables of electricity. And that's why we attracted a massive number of tourists to come there. And they're experiencing, for example, the camel rides. They experience the products from the camel. So as a camel, what you mentioned is very interesting. Just to pinpoint, we developed like a number of entrepreneurs in Oman as SMEs to just create a chain of products from the camel product, not only from the milk, but overall, and put it in the market. And I like the point saying, today the governments are the regulators. They plan, they regulate, but the execution arm is the private sectors. So we cannot work in silos. We really need to have a partnership with the partners who are having the same vision, and they can drive the vision of the governments. And now globally, we're mandated on these regulations. And it's challenging. I can't say it's not, with what's ongoing with the digital world and the speed and the youth, millennials. But we need to really balance that to maintain the sustainability. And we looked in some products we mandated on. For example, even today in our the national carrier, we mandate the dates have been served are from Oman. We have to be a local. So sometimes the regulative body need to really have the emphasis in the segment, and it grows. But we need to support them as well. Sometimes the supply doesn't go with the demand. It doesn't balance.
I think one of the things that Oman has definitely done right is that emphasis on the local guide.
Yes.
Because sadly, there are quite large parts of Middle East and North Africa where the guides are not from the local community. And that definitely reduces the quality of the experience.
And I'm proud to
for the
say
guest.
from 2016, Oman doesn't license any tour guide except Omani in terms of English as a speaking, because we groomed in a number of Omanis to enter to this as a job and to enter this as a future progression through the ministry vision. And now from 2016, we don't have except Omani tour guides who are Arabic and English. And we have a target by 2020 to be as well sufficient for even German speakers, Omanis, as translators.
Because part of what that policy does is to raise the status of working in the industry. Its guides are basically teachers. We shouldn't forget that. I've been remiss in not coming to the floor for questions earlier. I'm sure I should be told off shortly. But Charlotte, there's a question here. Please. Could you just say who you are and then go ahead with your question?
Sure. My name is Imtiaz Muqbil from Bangkok, Thailand, Travel Impact Newswire. My question is to Madam Undersecretary. You mentioned as you were looking around your neighbors, you were learning from them on what to do, and also you mentioned what not to do. Could you give us a few examples of what you think about not to do? What are you not doing that your neighbors are doing?
Let's not compare what not to do with the neighbors. Oman and UAE, I joined the government in the last 6 years and been in these platforms, and many been prospectively thinking we're competing. The whole region is actually complementing each other. We have different products, diversified product. We have offering, which is maybe UAE can't offer. They have offers which we don't. So we are looking to that. We will never be a mass destination. This is for sure. One of the government, our vision and how we're marketing ourselves and how we're building our products, it's not a mass destination. We're gonna be, is how we are working is being attracting the responsible tourism. So in that area, we're building even our products around that. So that's one of the learning. We need to really, we are not a mass destination. We cannot move as well Oman as a massive cosmopolitan area because of its culture, what it has, what it's offering. It's more of other areas. So it's just like you understanding how you're building, and we learn even from globally, not only from the region. So that two areas, we're not going to be moving just, we're going to be a cosmopolitan destination now.
If I may just add to that, it is, I think, fundamental to responsible tourism that places should be different one from another.
Yes.
That's the kind of diversity that we want to celebrate.
Even the product what we're offering is for responsible tourism.
Yeah. And there should be diversity in that. The lady here.
Good afternoon. My name is Vivienne Paturel-Mazot, and I'm French, and I've been living in Dubai for the last 10 years. I just wanted to add a comment on what you mentioned earlier. I am working in partnership with the Hamdan Heritage Center, and we are going to open the camel farm at the end of Ramadan, where visitors will be able to get a close encounter with camels, including a mini petting farm, so local animals.
Could you let me have your card before you leave? Thank
Absolutely,
you.
I'll be delighted.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question?
There's one in the front.
Sorry, there's a question here, Charlotte. Sorry, son. Missed you.
This can be asked by. This can be answered by anyone. I'm Russell from Sadgor Travel in Dubai. About the hospitality, what about the clientele? What would be your vision that? What would be the behaviors of the clientele 25 years from now, and how are we going to react with them?
Could I add to that question? Ask you to think about that critical host-guest relationship, because quite clearly, some places, not in this part of the world, but in other parts of the world, are getting the kind of guests they really would rather they hadn't had. Do you have any ideas about how you influence the kind of guest that you attract so that you get the maximum value and the least damage from those guests?
I think for me personally, the guest expectation will be driven by education. So I did some research since we were asked to talk about 25 years from now, and within Jumeirah, our colleague and guest age profile, 20% of our guests haven't been born yet. And as an example, I have 2 young children that went to school today wearing blue for Earth Day, with the sole purpose of raising awareness about plastic in the ocean. And 3 days ago within Dubai, I heard on the radio a school opening in September that will specialize in crypto technology, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and sustainable innovation. So my view is that the knowledge and the education of our colleagues and guests will be so enhanced and nourished over the next few years that it will be a core expectation that the hotel they visit in 2040 will have everything that you've spoken about this afternoon and more. And we'll have technology that we don't even know about yet. But I really genuinely believe that the people within our organisation, and let's face it, tourism is about human interaction. I genuinely believe that they will drive the standards that we will deliver in 2040.
Inga, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a very good point that, of course, the younger generations are much more interested in sustainability. They learn it in schools. It's a discussion point. But I think in what we have experienced in Radisson Blu hotels and other brands that we have is that it's in the way you communicate with guests. For instance, on the towel reuse program, we have linked that to bringing safe drinking water for every towel that gets reused. So we invest in donations somewhere else. So we give guests a good feeling and a meaning to reusing their towel. And that has increased towel reuse by 10%. And on the other hand, I also think sometimes we need to lead the way because we have the opportunity as hoteliers to sometimes lead the way because we have so much contact with so many guests, millions of guests every day. So for instance, now this month and also for Earth Day, we have taken out all plastic straws from our hotels this month in the Middle East and in Africa. And just that enables us to have a conversation with people. Even if they say, hey, I want a plastic straw in my cocktail, we can explain them why. And then you have a pleasant conversation, and who knows, maybe that has a multiplicator effect as well.
Your Excellency, would you like to comment?
One thing, maybe just to give what Oman have done as well as a government regulator, we measure every year. We do have awards as well for our operators and our business partners who are working in terms of like the carbon emissions and environmental friendly. We have some products even using the local products. Like I mentioned Jabal Akhdar, today the location is in the mountains. So there is a lot of challenges to move, and we have over 3 products we have there. They have about 600 key rooms. So to move the products from the land all the way to the mountains was very challenging. So we worked with the operators of the hotels, how they can build the green houses, and how can they train the locals there to maintain that and to grow it. So what we did actually, we're doing every year one of the classifications criteria, and we are promoting these products when these agents or these partners or operators actually have a category. So we are looking into that every year. We are embracing that more. And I believe if the governments or any authority in charge of the tourism and travel industry really put these guidelines and really put a bit of incentives for the companies, operators who are really looking into these areas of saving the environment, carbon emission, they look into it, we really need to take care of them. So usually we advise this is a win-win situation. Because at the end of the day, they're the investors. They really need to be sustainable and growing. They have a numbers to reach. But we really need to grow on a healthy environment. So we need to incentivize so the governments usually can do that. And we did, and it worked very, very well. One area of a point of was discussed here in the clientele. We need all of us to measure the clientele from time to time. And sometimes if you feel there's a clientele, there's a bit of a redirection. This is quite not easy, but we need to look into that. And I agree, we need to look into our clientele in a very regular basis to avoid not to do undos.
It's probably important, I don't know if all of you have necessarily seen this, but both TUI and Booking.com have recently come out with some very large consumer surveys which suggest that the pace of change is hotting up across all originating markets. It's no longer the case you can say it's just an issue for a few source markets. It's an issue in more and more places. And I often think when I'm talking to a hotelier who still hasn't put in low flow showers, that really the number of people who are now doing environmental sciences in school and university who are coming out, and they see that contrast between the hotel with the A card that says, please recycle your towels so that we don't have to wash them, as a money-saving thing, in the same bathroom that's still not put low-flow showers in. Those hotels are increasingly going to be called by consumers for the hypocrisy that is. It's not that we shouldn't reuse our towels, it's that is not enough. And it's no longer convincing, I think, when hoteliers pursue that. Is there a last question? The two ladies at the front, Charlotte, have the last two questions.
Hi, my name is Asma Al-Ghabshi and I'm from Oman Aviation Group. I think selfishly I will ask Her Excellency this question. So in the next 25 years, I'm thinking about female diversity or gender diversity. Today I was walking in the Omani booth and I was very proud to see two females who've actually started their own touristic company. They're inviting people to witness their tent in the northern part of the country in Musandam. And I think we should promote that even further. So Your Excellency, how do you think in the next 25 years we will have more females joining this industry? And I think you are leading that as a role model. So just wondering, what are your thoughts in this regard? And maybe
Actually, in terms of being a part of the holding group, and you joined us, congratulations actually. We, as a Oman, as a country or the region, women have been really empowered, and today we have so many examples. Not myself being in part of the government, but previously our late minister was a woman, and we have a number of females leading a very crucial segments or industries which are playing a big role in the economy. We've seen actually in Oman a number of graduate female actually a bit of exceeding of a male. So therefore, even our job force or workforce, we started to mandate that to looking into the graduations as well. Creating a group, a holding company, having a leadership of females, so we have a quite good number. Today we are proud even to say we have a quite good number of pilots, women, Omanis, joined us as well. And I wouldn't see that actually 5 years ago. I remember when I joined the board and when I was talking to the crowd of female, like, why aren't you joining the airline? Why aren't you even going to the operational side, like pilots, engineers? And proudly to say we have today as a flying sky, we have 2 women already graduated. So it's a culturally and it's building the understanding. Oman as a country, as a government, it put all the platform for women just to rise. We need as well to really take the next step, to make sure we are helping each other and we really learn in a competitive world. But women in the Middle East, I believe, or maybe precise, I can say, maybe talking only about Oman, they've been given an equal opportunity. We have even in the cabinet, we have in the shura, we have in most of the industry. Even today in oil and gas industry, myself originally, I studied there, so we were like, there is a very big number of female working in an industry where we found it was very challenging for them to be. Yeah.
Your Excellency, we'd be delighted if you would join one of the panels at WTM London this year to make very much this point, possibly with some of your colleagues from Oman.
She's one of our stars. Yeah.
Would you make sure I have your card before you leave, please? There's another question here, the lady just here, Charlotte.
Hello, my name is Lulu from Asas. Another question for Her Excellency. I just want to ask, given the fact the geographic location of Oman and the mega events happening in the region, what are the Ministry of Tourism future plan? For example, you have Expo Dubai 2020 and the World Cup. So can you just give us what are the future plans?
One of the segments we identified in Oman while we did our strategy or the roadmap of 2040, it was really the MICE industry overall. And we built actually with the government have established a multi-billion state-of-art project in Al Arfan in the Muscat, in the capital, with the opening of our new international airport last month, where we're working on the in the mice industry, and we're actually, because we built the capacity of locals who can running these businesses and SMEs. So for the Expo 2020 is definitely putting the region globally. That itself is a pride for us, being part of this region. And we, as a government level, we have committees between the UAE government with the Omani government, and I'm actually a member of that committee, where we're working with the UAE government, Dubai, looking into how can we enhance as well, because we have, it's a category A expo, which is 6 months. So definitely there is a pro and post of events where we can offer. And as my early statement, Oman can offer some products which is UAE can't offer, and vice versa. So we started to communicate with the national carriers as well, to looking into the stopovers, where they have like stopovers in Oman as a destination, a point to point in Dubai, and stopovers few destinations in Oman. And we are really helping to look how we can cater. For Qatar similarly, one of the things for Qatar as well as a sport is one of our major pillar of the government to enhance the sport industry, not only as in tourism, but as well as a health, because we looked into what is happening in our region, the obesity, the increase of diabetes. So there is a mandate by the government really to enhance the sport industry in Oman by His Majesty. So we worked very, very closely as well with Qatar Authority, not only because of the FIFA, but how can we sustain that after the FIFA? What the learnings as well we can transfer that to Oman.
Thank you very much indeed. We've deliberately run over by 15 minutes, and I do want to bring things to a close now. Could I have the last slide come up, please? That's an indication of the other panels which are taking place at the show, for those of you who want to hear more about these issues. But Peter, just before we close, one of the things that people don't know about your hotel is the Turtle program, which we were very pleased to give you an award for. Would you like to make your invitation now?
Well, thank you, Harold. I mean, I think maybe people from Dubai are aware, actually. The Dubai Turtle Rehabilitation Project is probably our marquee environmental initiative in Jumeirah. It's actually been running for over 13 years, and in that time we've come close to releasing 1,700 turtles that were otherwise in poor health and injured and so on. On Tuesday the 24th, 9 till 10, I just wanted to invite anyone that was here and braved it to the end of this panel. You're very welcome. If you just meet me at the end, I can take your details. I'd love to invite you to have a look around our Al Nassim Turtle Rehabilitation Pen, and importantly meet a guy called Warren Baverstock, who's our marine biologist that looks after our aquarium and the turtles, just to hear some amazingly humble and wonderful work that the team do, and we're very, very proud of. So thank you for giving me the chance to invite you, and if you're interested to join us on Tuesday at 9 in the morning, then please just wait for me at the front and I'll send you a personal invite. So thank you.
I was lucky enough last year to have that experience, and it is unforgettable. Any of you who have small children particularly will really want to see the photographs of those young turtles being rehabilitated. Could I ask you to thank the panel? It's been an enjoyable session, I hope. Thank you to those of you who braved it to the end, but a big thank you for our panel.